So joining us now from Washington, D.C. is Republican pollster Dustin Olson.
Let's bring in Republican pollster and host of the Political Trade Secrets podcast, Dustin Olson. Dustin, good morning to you. What do you think about the results of the Iowa caucus? Good morning.
Well, it was historic, to say the least. You know, the highest percentage that any Republican has gotten is actually back in 1976 with Ford, got 45%. George W. Bush in the modern era got 41%. This is a historic percentage, as well as the margin, 30%.
Good morning. Welcome back. So more bad news for the Biden campaign after a new Wall Street Journal poll has Donald Trump beating Joe Biden by fairly wide margins. Joining me for a reaction, pollster for McLaughlin and Associates in the Trump 2024 campaign, Jim McLaughlin, and pollster for American Pulse Research and Polling, Dustin Olson. Gentlemen, great to have you on. What do you make of that, Dustin?
Well, you know, it's interesting. One of the things I noticed from the poll is that there are a lot of disaffected voters. In 2016, it was about the forgotten men and women, and that's really expanded, I think, in 2024. There are a lot of black men in particular is a group that has been moving towards Donald Trump. You have younger voters. You know, the basket of deplorables comment that Hillary Clinton made back in 2016. There really is a disregard for a lot of people who have concerns about the economy, about inflation, people who, younger voters in particular, they're priced out of the market when it comes to homes, when it comes to inflation affecting their ability to take care of just like daily needs. It's really having an impact on people.
Great points.
Is next week. Let's bring in Republican strategist Dustin Olson and
Dustin Olson, pollster at American Pulse. Thank you both for coming on. We talk a lot. In fact, the whole country is talking a lot about this Washington Post poll.
The guy who put that poll together, his name is Dustin Olson. He comes to us from Washington, D.C. He's the host of a podcast, Political Trade Secrets. We like that podcast.
Dustin, of course, Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House is saying, polls, who watches polls? Watch.
Polls are polls, right? They are going to be all over the place. They're going to, they don't tell the whole story, actually. And that is just the way a poll is.
They don't tell the whole story, Dustin, but these polls tell a very compelling story.
Well, as a pollster, I can tell you it is accurate that polls are indeed polls, but I would also go a little bit further, and when you put a bunch of polls together, you get what we call is a trend, and I would say the trend for Joe Biden is not good. You saw the recent Fox News poll. We also had bad news for the economy there. The Wall Street Journal poll, same thing. I mean, every single poll, actually, I don't know of a single poll right now that has shown good news on the economy for the president, and I would say it's less Bidenomics and more Bidenflation.
Welcome back to the program. We really love our polling geeks. And I think the apex predator over at MSNBC is Steve Kornacki. Here's what he said about the current polls, Trump-Biden.
This is the biggest lead NBC has ever had in 16 polls for Donald Trump over Joe Biden.
All right, my next guest is not a polling geek. My next guest is a pollster with American
I'm a polling
Pulse
geek,
Research
that's fair.
And host of the Political Trade Secrets podcast. Dustin Olson, welcome back to the program. Okay, what does that mean?
Well, you know, first of all, Kornacki's kind of like it's a performance art when he's up at the board and he's doing that stuff. It's actually fun to watch. It's absolutely the case. You can tell that things are moving. In our polls, 80.2% believe there's a double standard when it comes to the legal system in this country. Plus, another thing I think that I've seen happen is that over the last year, we've watched the disapproval rating for Biden track his disapproval of the handling of the economy.
Dustin Olson is a pollster for American Pulse Research and Polling and host of the Political Trade Secrets podcast. And he joins me now to discuss. Thanks for being with us today.
It's great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So how about that, Dustin?
He's a Republican strategist, and he joins us now. You have managed political races, so look, Donald Trump, 2 victories in a row. It looks like he is on a clear path to the nomination. You predicted Trump's rise to the presidency back in 2016.
How are you feeling about 2024? If you were in Vegas right now putting money on it, what do you think happens November 5th, 2024?
In 2016, it was obvious that he has the ability. We had done work on the 2016 convention. We saw really he's kind of a non-linear thinker, and he sees things other people don't, and he seems to be able to move numbers. I mean, you were just talking about the vice presidential pick. I'm sure he hasn't actually picked somebody. However, it is a great way to get people thinking about him being president, thinking about him making that choice. You know, he's has you thinking past the sale. I mean, these are the kind of things that he's capable of that other people just don't think that way.
The New Hampshire primary is heating up, with former President Trump in the lead at 51%, according to a new Suffolk Boston Globe poll.
Also joining us is Republican strategist and pollster at American Pulse Research and Polling, Dustin Olson. Even if she wins in New Hampshire, though, will she be able to take Trump in South Carolina and beyond? Because it just doesn't seem that way.
Well, first, she's absolutely right. It is a two-person race. At this point, it is a race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and that's what our polling has showed at American Pulse, as well as recent polls around the country.
Welcome back to The Breakfast Show. Coming up, I'll be talking about US politics and the upcoming presidential election with the pollster Dustin Olson.
أهلا بكم في برنامج تقرير واشنطن. معنا أيضا الشريك التنفيذي في مؤسسة أصل للاستراتيجيات السياسية والمستشار السابق في الحملات الانتخابية الجمهورية داستن أولسون. إلى تغيير ربما في مسار الانتخابات؟
نعم، ففي كل نتائج استطلاعات الرأي الأمريكية رأينا أن
I want to bring in Dustin Olson now, a pollster for American Pulse Research and Polling. Dustin, thank you for taking the time to be here. There seems to be this disconnect where we see these reports that come out and that the economy is improving. That is something that you would believe that President Biden would be able to tout on the campaign trail. Yet Americans, many are just not feeling good about the economy. Why is there that disconnect?
Yeah, in our own polling, the president's job approval, actually the disapproval, tracks almost exactly with their disapproval of his handling of the economy.
So joining me live now from Washington, D.C. is pollster Dustin Olson. So a very good morning to you. Thanks so much for talking to us here today. And a huge amount of focus, understandably, on the Republican nomination after Donald Trump's stunning victory in Iowa. Is this beginning to look like a one-horse race, do you think?
Yeah, I think that was, well, first of all, it was historic. He beat 50%, which means that a majority of the Republicans in Iowa were supporting him. Also, it was the largest margin and largest percentage the Republican has ever gotten in the contest person race. You know, Nikki Haley last night said this is effectively a two-person race, and I think she's right. Unfortunately for her, it's Joe Biden versus Donald Trump.
Dustin Olson, thank you so much for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Hey, Dustin, really appreciate it. I hope you'll check back in with us from time to time as the race unfolds. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
I'm just so glad that you've highlighted all those issues that are impacting the American voter at the moment. On that note, many thanks to you, Dustin Olson, for joining in with your precious insights. Thoroughly appreciate. Thank you so much for joining in on CNN News 18.